Right, fuck it, no preamble this time, there are simply too many good games for me to cover. Demo recommendations part 1 of, fuck if I know, an amount. We'll see. Fallen Aces from the minds of Trey Powell and Jason Bond is a stylish head-on collision of Dick Tracy-style comic book pulp noir aesthetics meeting classic immersive sim mechanics, a fantastic showcase of the immense potential the game has in the long term, and proudly boasts one of the most gut-bustingly outrageous examples of toilet humour I've encountered in my life. Then again, I'm a fucking child, so maybe my opinion's a bit skewed. The demo itself is also a standout example of not just how good the gameplay itself promises to be, but how to lay out a good demo in the first place. Introducing the mechanics in good time, allowing for creativity and exploration, the introductory chapter just begs to be replayed, inviting the player to test out new approaches and strategies each time. Do you slip by a mob of guards with a well-timed distraction, pick them off one by one from the shadows, or just charge in swinging and turn everything not nailed down into a weapon? And if you do you stick with the versatility of your bare fists, grab yourself a lead pipe, or let loose with a 45? It's supported by a cracking sense of tone, supported not only by a sparingly used orchestral score that swells for the bigger brawls you'll find yourself in, but also by quality voice actor work and superb writing. Listening to a mook dress himself down in the mirror while you sneak up behind him manages to be both funny and a little tragic at the same time. If you're even slightly interested in what you've already seen, I sincerely suggest you download this and try it out while you can. The developers just released an update with some small fixes and improvements to the control scheme, but even the initial build held up incredibly well. So, get out there and bust some heads. Capice? I'm sorry, I'll stop.
This place brings back memories. I took my first dame here in my younger days. It was a smooching spot, So we got to necking, see? And all of a sudden, splat. I feel something wet splash me in the face. Bitch, and it just took a shit. Splattered all over her mug, smack dab on her forehead. She screamed and ran off. Never saw her again after that.
Huh? I just heard something. Hey, somebody fooling around.
Hey, who's throwing shit?
I just heard.
Whoa! Hey,
Get the hell out of here!
I don't know.
Get the hell out of here!
Yeah, just what are you gonna do with that?
Let's get him! Stay coming here! Quit hiding! Just what are you gonna do with that? Oh, my face! How about some of this? How about some of this?
Take this one fella.
Come on, no! Smack you around like that? Hey, come here. Oh, face! Ah. Just what are you gonna do with that? Don't let him smack you around like that! So tough now, boy. What are you guys doing? Get him! Just one man, come on, we can take him!
Now you know me, I'm a simple man. I see a game with a weird West aesthetic and, I go apeshit. I'll be honest, when I first saw Blood West on the Next Fest page, I kind of dismissed it as a well-meaning piece of jank, a boomer shooter with the supernatural gunslinger aesthetic just sort of haphazardly slapped on top of it. Because, you know, I'm a fucking idiot. Blood West, developed and produced by Hyperstrange, is a surprisingly deep and atmospheric roguelike shooter, where death may be a temporary setback, but it always comes with consequences. As a revenant gunslinger brought back by forces unknown to take down the hellish hordes assaulting the frontier, you may be forgiven for thinking that this is going to be some cheesy, gory, rooty-tooty point-and-shooty affair with twanging guitars and tumbleweeds everywhere. Well, there's certainly guitars that do twang, and there are tumbleweeds, which on one occasion did make me shit myself as I saw movement in my peripheral vision, but it's part of a dark, melancholy dirge as you slog your way through hideous abominations which can, and absolutely will, rip you to pieces in a matter of seconds. Ravenous ghouls, vulture-headed gunslingers, and banshee-like chorus girls toting shotguns littered the ruins of this small desert town that you're tasked with cleaning of hellish taint, and you will die. You will die a lot. Rather than going for a straightforward shoot-em-up experience, Blood West focuses a great deal more on exploration, planning, and stealth. Foraging for useful loot, acquiring magical trinkets, adjusting your arsenal for different situations, and, as I mentioned, dealing with the consequences of failure. Each death brings with it a curse which impedes your ability to progress, making it harder to sneak or limiting your stamina or health, which can in turn be corrected by appeasing the spirits, either with physical offerings or performing specific acts like stealth kills in-game. Speaking of stealth, I do also have to give the devs credit for making one incredibly simple but useful change to the usual stealth awareness system. Rather than a plain awareness cue, you can now tell specifically whether you've been heard or seen, giving you a moment's clarity to choose whether to freeze or move. It may be lacking complexity, and it doesn't appear that light or dark affect how easily you're seen, but it's robust enough to provide a workable alternative to just straight up head-on action. For what it is worth, the combat itself is actually pretty decent, with different ammo types and the timing of your shots proving vital to conserving health and ammo. Plinking at enemies from a distance will do little to no damage, whereas a point-blank headshot is a significantly more reliable way of dusting anything that comes in the way. I don't want to bang on all day, but for what it's worth, Blood West has a really robust framework upon which it can expand. If Hyperstrange take on board the feedback they're getting, there's the potential for a cracking slow-burn action horror experience here. Go play. You know, get murdered.
To the fray I go.
Lament, ye poor soul, for there is a stench of a curse upon you. With each curse you shall grow weaker and weaker. But maybe we could help. It could be arranged, yes. We would even do it for free. But we need a certain thing. Let's see. We need feathers. Their properties will help us drive the curse away. But not any feathers. The ones from the birdmen will do just fine.
Ratchets of death. You better stay dead, pal. Splat. Welcome here. lad.
So we're here. Alright. I like what Kingdom of the Dead is trying to do. I didn't want to pass over this game entirely, but I'd be lying if I wasn't ultimately annoyed at the experience the demo provided. Similar in content to Blood West in that they both provide slow-paced supernatural shooty times, Kingdom of the Dead by Dirigio Games goes for a distinctly theatrical, theremin-soaked Italian B-movie vibe, and much like those films, it misses as much as it manages to hit. The premise itself is solid. A paranormal expert wielding a sentient sword which allows him to close portals into a hellish underworld, fending off hordes of chittering demons, cultists, and worse in the process. A harsh, sketchy, black and white palette employs ink-black shadows within which to highlight the bright whites of the eyes of your enemies, coupled with splashes of claret as you take off a limb with your arsenal of firearms. It's just a shame that nothing really feels truly fleshed out yet. Everything feels loose, sluggish, a second draft. For a game intended to pit you against dozens of enemies at a time, the gameplay doesn't lend itself to doing such a thing. Movement is often a chore, with the sprinting in particular having this weird wind-up that requires you to know when you should be running before you actually need to. While the guns hold up relatively well, the sword, the one linchpin of your reason for fighting demons in the first place, handles like a wet baguette with no sense of reach or feedback for when you actually manage to land a strike. The problems with the awkward controls are only compounded by the fact that, at least for me, the demo doesn't feel properly optimised. Some locations result in notable frame rate drops, particularly in some of the later fights where it feels like the sheer amount of enemies on the screen is slowing the game to a crawl. Even when it's not struggling, the game's incredibly dense texturing of every surface results in an eye-watering haze of crushed detail at anything beyond a few yards away, making some of the long-range enemies almost impossible to spot. Mundan also went for a very similar hand-drawn style, but while it used a soft selection of smudged charcoal tones to convey texture and shape, Kingdom of the Dead relentlessly eye-fucks you with an inch-thick black marker at every opportunity. So why am I recommending it? Because, despite everything I just mentioned, I can't fault what it's going for. The ridiculous schlocky theatrics, the crumbling mansions and bizarre architecture, the charmingly silly-looking monsters and cartoonish way in which stray bullets impact on surfaces, it's got the best intentions in the world, and I really hope it can refine what's here and fix what does need changing. While I may not recommend this as a straight-up good play, I feel like it's well worth keeping an eye on. You see what I did there? Because the sword's got an eye. Here's the fucking gameplay. now it's time for a game that's got no fucking right to be as good as it is. It's not as if the Postal franchise has really had a good track record with entrusting the IP to outside devs, but slap my arse and do me dirty if Postal Brain Damaged isn't one of the standout demos of the year. Co-developed by Hyperstrange, again, and Creative Forge Games, Brain Damaged is, put simply, the crack-addled result of a hate fuck between Postal 2 and Doom Eternal. Audacious, wacky, hyper-violent carnage executed with the kind of skill and elegance that you'd come to expect from a AAA developer, except instead of rappelling between cacodemons and punching imps in the face, you're slingshotting yourself between burger-chucking morons and downing chili sauce to turn your piss into napalm. It's fucking great. The setup itself is brilliantly simple. Postal dude parties too hard and blacks out on the sofa, entering a surreal dream world that's only marginally more ridiculous than the real-life cities he's been passing through recently. Bloodthirsty attack dogs, crotchety old geezers with shotguns, and fireball-throwing larpers are just a small selection of the enemies that will get in your way, and you'll enjoy a selection of equally eclectic weaponry to match. While I've gone into more depth with the other games here, I really don't want to spoil anything that I don't have to, so to be honest, this is my absolute straight-up must-play recommendation of the next Fest event. If you loved Doom Eternal, but wished it had significantly more toilet humour, swearing, and a shotgun made of Coke cans, this is the game for you. Go fucking play it.
Just what the doctor ordered. See what you made me do? Looks like you're just fucking raw on the inside. What was this game rated again? Those moronic developers thought they could hide this from me? Clean up on aisle, everywhere.
And that's it. This is a short one, but I wanted to get the big, easily accessible titles done first, then in a few days I'll have something slightly more niche for you to check out as well. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good one.